So the first technique I'm going to show you is called wet on wet, and basically that means exactly what it says. I'm going to wet the paper with just water first, and I'm going to start on my sky, just getting some water on there, making the paper nice and wet, being careful to just only do the sky. I don't want to get that house or the hillside. Okay, now that it is wet, I can go in with my colors. Maybe I want to do a nice blue, mix a little purple with that. Think about what time of day you want. Looks real nice. You can see where I did oil pastel resist while also doing the wet on wet. You can see how the oil pastel right there is not accepting the paint because they resist each other. I'm gonna go a little darker over here. Normally you want to have your paper taped down to the table because it will kind of curl on you, but it'll be okay. The next technique I'm going to show you is called lifting, and this is a good way to get clouds. You're just going to rip a little piece of paper towel and you're basically lifting up the paint. That's a good technique to do if you have like a pool of color that's just kind of hanging out in an area and it's real dark and you don't want it. You can just lift it out, or you can do it for clouds. Just kind of make little puffy, white puffy clouds, and they look pretty realistic. Okay, I think that looks real nice. So while I wait for that to dry, I'm gonna move on to an area that's far away from it, because if I were to paint right here, with this gets wet and it touches this wet border, the two are gonna mix and just kind of make a mess of things. I don't want anything disturbing my sky right now. So I'm gonna move on to the bushes down here, but instead of doing wet on wet, I'm gonna do wet on dry. Wet on dry. So basically my paper is dry and I'm just gonna go right in with wet watercolor on dry paper, and that's called wet on dry technique. Now the foreground, or the area that's at the bottom of your paper that's closest to you, is called the foreground. It should be darker in color than your hills that are in the distance. So right now I'm just kind of getting some brown on there. You could go in with some blacks if you want to go really dark. I'm gonna clean my brush, go in with some green, and kind of mix it all together. I just want a nice forest green. Try dabbing. The paint's only going where I got the paper wet. So that's the nice thing about watercolors. It's not going into this area because that side is dry. I might want this to be even darker. So see how the color is pooling at the bottom of my paper? If that bothers you, you can just tap it with your paper towel. This could also do some nice little textures for leaves if you want to give that texture here. And see what it does when it dries. It might look cool, it might not. If you don't like it, you can always paint over it. Okay, so I know my sky is still dry, or still drying, it's wet. So while I wait, I'm gonna mix some colors for our wall and our buildings. For me, I like to use orange, and I like to mix right here on the tray. That's what that's actually used for. They have the different compartments there designed for you to mix colors. So I'm getting some yellow off of here, putting it on here. I'll clean my brush in the water, get a little bit of orange, mix it right here. And then I want some brown too. So yellow, orange, and brown, but I don't want it to go too dark too fast. Okay, so now I have this nice color. Let's see what it looks like. And I did that on purpose just because I would like it to be a little darker so it looks like it's in shadow. So I'm just gonna dip a little in my black. Dip a little in my black, put it down over here. Clean my brush off, get some more of that yellow, mix it with the black, get some more orange, mix it with the black, till I have just, oh, I accidentally dipped in the green. Ah, we'll see what happens. You can kind of see what color it's making over here. I just want it to be a little darker than my building, the front of the building. But you could mix a little of those colors in, because it will look a little fake if you just leave that plain Jane color with nothing, no texture. So yes, ideally I didn't want the side wall to mix too much with the front, but it's okay if they do. If you wanted to wait and let that dry or go back over it like I'm doing right now, I just grabbed some orange and I'm going back over it. And I'm gonna very carefully do the wall here.